We're live.
We're live. We're doing it. Who cares? Go ahead.
Going live.
We're doing it.
This is a thing that is happening.
We're doing it in 10 years with a Snyder cut.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is our latest American Sci-Fi Classics quarantine panel. And tonight, we are an American/Canadian Sci-Fi Classics Track quarantine panel because we have our very good friend, a friend of the Classic Track, who has never actually appeared on the Classic Track because she's in Canada. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
No,
Miss Deanna Toxopeus.
Hello. Thank you, Joe. It's Canada.
Oh.
I thought it was Canuckistan.
Nope.
Well, I'm down here in Alabama, so I don't know the difference.
Well, because I'm so polite, I'm not going to call you guys all the names that we call you up here. But trust me, there are many.
And we've earned all of them.
Good times. So one of the most fun things we get to do on the Classic Track is we've named it Sci Fighters. And other folks, apparently, they tell me once they're introduced to Sci Fighters, oh, yeah, such and such a YouTube show does that, or some other group does that. Well, we ain't them. Ours is better. So,
yes.
But what we do is we present. Usually, we do this in tournament format.
Yes.
Today, we're just doing individual
Brackets, King of the Ring.
That's right. Because we're calling this edition, thanks to my co-director, Mr. Gary Mitchell, we're calling them short rounds. Here is what we're doing. We're just positing, we're presenting the notion that two fictional characters might fight each other, and then we're going to decide who would win. It's
a tradition in comic books, if nothing else, that when heroes meet, they fight. So
yeah,
come on, that's what we all wanted at a Civil War.
Right. I mean, come on. And
so we should do introductions.
Oh yeah, that. My name is Joe Crowe. I'm the co-director of the American Sci-Fi Classics Track, and to my I did it right the first time. To my stage left is the teacher of Canadian geniuses, Deanna Toxopeus.
Thank you.
And co-host of the Revcast.
Co-host of the Revcast on our little website where most of us met each other, Revolution SF, which stands for science fiction, not San Francisco. Nothing wrong with San Francisco. We're just saying.
We're not trying to start a revolution in San Francisco.
No. That's a lot of work, and we're not even there. How would we? Okay, and so that's where Deanna and Gary. Here's the thing with Deanna and Gary. They were fans of our work on Revolution SF. And we said, oh, are you now? And we put them to work on Revolution SF.
I'm actually going to correct you because we were fans of your work on Zealot, Joe.
Zealot.
That's where we first met.
Even before. It's like I don't even think of it all as one thing for some reason.
I was the winner of the first reader-generated top 10. What was the sequel to Babylon 5? And
Babylon
I came up with Babylon DSV. Caution's going to be played by a cute dolphin. And Joe, I think it was Joe, it might have been Shane, sent me an email saying, thank you so much. You have no idea how many people said Babylon 6.
See? Genius. So right below me in my basement, the fourth member of our oh, the tickling. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, our friend, Mr. Darin Bush.
Hello,
Tell
Joe.
people who you are, Darin.
Yeah,
hello,
tell them
Joe. Hello, gang.
I don't know who anybody is.
You don't remember me, Joe? It's okay. I have no face.
Joe doesn't remember who I am.
Joe doesn't remember who he is. Let's be blunt on this.
I owe all of you $20. That's all I know. That's why you're all here.
I'm okay with that. Of the three of you, I think I know Deanna the best, the most intimately. No, I'm Darin Bush. I'm eventually, when I get a word in, I'm an award-winning science fiction and fantasy author. I'm allowed to say that in public, apparently. I'm also one of the content creators, panel runners, showrunners for about a half a dozen conventions in the Atlanta area. And Gary and Joe let me talk in public occasionally.
Mm-hmm. I share rooms with Darin at Monsterama and a few other cons in the South and help him out. And we like to exchange that power of who's in charge and who's the flunky.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And he pays cash, which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Cash.
You might want to have that money.
The
checked,
tender
Darin.
moments in the middle of the night are just a bonus.
Darin, have that money checked. just from me to you, Darin, have the money checked, like blue lighted or something.
Ooh.
You know, just make sure that it's actually legal.
Okay. And not
Photocopy.
Here's what we're doing. As I left Darin in the dirt while I was trying to explain it, and sitting in his basement, my basement, wondering when I was going to mention him. So here's what we're doing. Sci-Fighters, what we do is we posit notions of fictional characters fighting each other, and then we all debate such things, and then we
Hi, Mark.
Yeah. Hey, we decide who would win if they all fought. So Gary and Deanna have done an extraordinary amount of preparation for this, and I have done none.
As per usual.
Yeah. And Deanna is going to be our official. Deanna, you're our official scorekeeper. You've got the polls.
I've got our polls.
We put. Mm-hmm. And you can grab the polls off of the
okay.
Classics Track Facebook group as well.
Yeah, we've run some polls on our Facebook page, facebook.com/groups/American Sci-Fi Classics. And if you're wondering where that page is, if you're watching this live right now, you're on it. You're on there, guys.
So you all got a vote.
Yeah.
Everybody got a vote.
Everybody got a vote. And also on our Facebook page for Revolution SF, which is facebook.com/whatever/Revolution Sci-Fi, because no kidding, a group in San Francisco had Revolution SF and beat us to it. They no longer exist. We still do. That's okay.
Yes.
I'm not bitter about it.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I really am.
Yeah,
okay.
Bitter.
Are you guys extemporaneous? I love it. Okay. That's a good word. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, we're doing this.
Absolutely.
Sci-Fighters, ladies and gentlemen. As I said before, we other YouTube, you've probably seen other YouTube places, the podcasts do it. Well, tell them to go stick it where the sun don't shine. Ours is better. All right, here we go.
All right, so I am going to share screen here, Joe.
Okay.
Ooh.
No, the other one.
Gary Pants.
Pants.
I am technically wearing pants.
Technically.
Are we back to the leggings?
Right, Joe, I think you need to approve it.
Well, I approved it. Boom, look at that.
There we go.
Woo.
All right, so.
All right.
Starting with Katniss and Arya.
Yep, we're starting with.
Yes. This is
suddenly I can't see you guys. Okay, so. All right, so this is our first contest. It is Arya Stark, little northerner murder machine, versus Katniss Everdeen, the survivor of District 12. So by the numbers, they're both ladies, and they both kill people. Darin, what is your opinion on this matchup?
My daughter's cosplay of Arya means she wins. No, in all seriousness, my daughter does look a lot like the actress that plays Arya, whose name just escaped me. I'm actually gonna go with Arya because I don't care how good Katniss is with a bow and an arrow. Arya isn't gonna be there to be shot. She's gonna be somewhere else.
Now, I'm going to say some nice things about Katniss because I think the Hunger Games has faded from our memory now. But the reality is that Katniss brought down 2 tyrants. We always think that she brings down President Snow, but she actually brings down somebody else. And she brings down the leader of the rebellion, who is trying to set herself up as set herself up as a tyrant, as the replacement tyrant, as many revolutions go. And it's a tale of warning that, don't always believe that the strong man can replace the strong man. So Katniss has a lot to say, and I think I agree that Arya is amazing, but I think one of the reasons why Arya is winning in our poll on the Dragon Con page is that it's more recent in our memory because Game of Thrones has just ended, and I would postulate if this poll had been done a few years ago, Katniss would have won. But she is definitely winning on the Facebook page.
What are the hard numbers?
The hard numbers are 30 out of 39 votes. Arya is winning with 33, and I've crunched the numbers on that. That's an 84.6% win on that.
Guys, look.
See, everybody should know right now that Deanna is a maths teacher. I do say it as maths because she is from Canada.
We say Canada. Math up here. We're not that British.
Darin?
So 50%.
Darin, you look like you had a thought?
50% of us are math teachers. That's awesome.
Hey.
I knew I liked you better than these 2 guys. I have this fantasy.
Everybody liked us better.
I have this fantasy that Arya goes to Katniss and says, "Look, you're good at killing leaders. Can you get my older brother out of my way?"
See?
Younger brother. Younger brother.
And Lola Strickland provides the name Maisie Williams.
Maisie Williams, that's her name.
Yes, I remembered it too late. Thank you, Lola.
Yes. Yeah, and I have to say as well, I think the real deciding factor is that Arya is basically fantasy Batman. She's able to do the disguises. She's got all the skills. She went and learned magic from the Faceless Men. Even though the TV show Arya isn't quite as powerful as book Arya, but there's still she's a badass. As Mark Finn, though, points out, Arya does have a bow, Katniss, has a bow, which means in an open field. Although Arya might be a little smarter than her brother and remember to run in a zigzag pattern instead of a straight line when people are shooting arrows at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I just remember the thing you're talking about, Gary. That was great.
And if the Avengers and the Arrowverse have taught us nothing, the arrow is the bow that you bring to a large fight with people who are outgunning you by 100%.
Oh, sure.
All right, so
worthy battle involving ranged weapons. Katniss has got it. But yeah,
Mark does point out though that Arya is still a Stark, and Starks are not exactly known for their brains
or their longevity, for that matter. If you think about it,
that is true. Somehow, Katniss survived 3 books. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess Arya also survived 3 books, but I
think more importantly, she survived the first movie. Got to make more movies.
Yeah, that's right. So there's 4 of us. Do we want to vote? Well, we've presented the fan vote. Now, so there's going to be a tie.
I think the fan vote can help decide that. I think is everybody amenable to that? That if we have a tie, the fans can be our 5th voter, which could mean that we can disagree with the fans.
We can outvote the fans.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So you see, people.
So unless anybody else has a.
Some of these polls are still open. So some of them have closed, but some of them are still open. So if you go to the American Sci-Fi Classics Track page right now, or the Revolution SF page right now on Facebook, you could get your vote in. You could help change what's happening in this live stream right now.
Ooh.
All right,
So
so
are we voting now?
Darin, what's your vote?
Arya.
And I will also throw in for Arya.
I'm going to throw in for Katniss because I love me some Katniss.
Well,
Right,
then,
Joe?
I got to go with Arya as well.
All right, so I believe that we have one dead bow lady.
Boom.
Yeah.
Mark Finn, you can absolutely mail your ballot in.
Oh, it will. It will
All
indeed
right.
be
All right.
massive fraud.
I want it by monkey post, Mark.
We don't have time for politics.
Yeah, we really.
All right, so our second face-off of the evening, Jem from Jem and the Holograms
Oh,
Okay.
this is-
versus Dazzler from the X-Men, and we are specifically using the 70s disco Dazzler, not the 80s aerobics Dazzler.
Thank you. OG Dazzler from the Chris Claremont comics only, with the roller skates that popped out of her shoes, with the
Yes.
the Walkman in her bedazzled. Of course, it's bedazzled. It's in her name. The Walkman in her purse, and
Disco ball necklace.
man,
It's
I
And
love
the
it.
disco ball necklace. So, Darin, do you know anything about either of these two characters? Do you want to give us the breakdown of what they can do?
No.
Okay, I'll do it.
I am
All right.
actually not familiar enough with either of these two.
So Dazzler is a member of the X-Men. She actually has a romance, I believe, with Ben Grimm, the Thing. And so her power is she can manipulate light, and she really is sort of I think it is Joe Crowe that says it best about comic book writers, what a 40-year-old man thinks a disco queen should be. And I think you've said this about Vibe, what a 40-year-old man thinks a breakdancer should look like. So yeah, her power is she can manipulate light, and so that she dazzles, hence the name.
She uses
She
uses
turns
the
sound into
from her-
lasers,
Like,
if I'm
yeah.
not
She
mistaken.
uses the sound from her cassette player.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And Jem is a singer who sings with the Holograms, was part of a children's program in the 80s called Jem and the Holograms. And her arch rivals were the Misfits. There was a bad live action movie adaptation, but we don't talk about that. We're talking about the original comic. It's from the same era as He-Man and She-Ra, also created to sell a doll.
Yeah. She was kind of a Scooby-Doo. Her and her band roamed the country solving mysteries. And Ryan Schweck, yes, she does get to use Synergy, who was her AI, which gave her her hologram powers.
Yeah,
Also
like think Hannah Montana, but more of an 80s acid trip, because the transition between her regular self and Jem is quite, 80s.
In the last couple of years, there's been a new Jem and the Holograms comic book. Highly recommend it. It's got the cheesiness, but it's also they really dug into pretty much everything. But yeah, Jem. Of course, Jem just now getting into comics. Dazzler's been in it for since the 80s. So Dazzler, if she's trying to get some of that Dazzler action.
I don't know off the top of my head, but maybe somebody can use their Google Foo, or somebody listening knows. Did they release a comic with the original Jem and the Holograms TV show? Because that was a big thing back in the 80s.
They did it with G.I. Joe and Transformers.
And
I don't know.
Everybody had, there were comic books in video games. It was a big thing in the 80s, right? Having been a child in the 80s.
I don't think they did. I know that but it's odd to think that they didn't, because G.I. Joe, because Jem was made by the same people and the same toy folks as G.I. Joe and Transformers, who had zillions of comics.
Yes. And my favorite story about Jem came from the show The Toys That Made Us, where Barbie got word the Barbie Mattel people got word that Gem was coming, and they were going to be dolls, and it was meant to be a competitor for Barbie. So they rushed into production a rocker Barbie doll.
Yeah,
and
Barbie
managed
and
to
the Rockers.
Yes, and they got it out just like a few months, barely before the Gem show dropped, which was a feat because of how long it normally takes to make toys. And then everybody started assuming that Gem was the ripoff, which was their plan.
Curtis. So, what about our classic track followers and revolutionists? What about the voting?
Well, the breakdown was interesting. Right from the beginning, Dazzler shot out to the lead on this one because I was watching this one because it was on the RevSF page. But currently it sits, this one's going to remain open just because of the way Facebook works for a little while. But currently it's 24-16 for Dazzler. So she's got 60% of the votes. And I think one of the most, one of the people on the RevSF page said Dazzler wins because she manipulates light and Gem is a hologram. So I thought that was pretty astute.
Look, we're getting down into the science, guys.
Yes. Yeah. Any other comments on the votes from people, Deanna? Or was that pretty much the only comment?
No,
now, Mark Finn points out that Gem is no Josie and the Pussycats.
So that was, by the way, Andy Sanders. I want to give him full credit for that. That very astute. Sarah Daisy Split said, "I vote for Gem because she is truly outrageous. Truly outrageous."
Awesome.
Nice callback.
Thank you, Miss Sarah.
Beck Pano, who I would like to shout out and advocate that you should get on one of these panels, said, "I vote for Goth Dazzler. Is that a thing?" To which point I suspect it was Gary, based on the comment back. RevSF commented back, "That's known as the Misfits."
That is correct. The Goth, Gem and the Hologram. The Misfits.
All right.
The songs were better.
All right, Joe, which one do you vote for?
I gotta go. It's tough. Scientifically speaking, the Dazzler has been trained in combat by the X-Men, with the X-Men. Gem, not so much. So, but again, science tells us that if you control sound and light, then you can do whatever you want to with holograms, which is what Gem is. So, I'm going with my heart instead of my brain. In this case, what was I pointing to? I was trying to think of. I'm going with my heart.
Only you know at this point, Joe.
And Darin down there is voguing.
Yes, and I'm saying Gem. My vote is
Deanna?
with Gem.
Oh, my vote's with Gem. Absolutely with Gem.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Darin? No, go ahead, Darin.
I was going to say I got to go Dazzler because she's a mutant. I mean, Dazzler is her powers. Gem, Gem's got to have a source of electricity. Nope.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Gem as well because Gem stayed true to her 80s aesthetic the whole time through to modern era, whereas Dazzler jumped off of the disco trend to get into the 80s aerobics outfits and chasing trends. So while Gem was doing it or putting in the hard work and dedication and sticking to her beliefs, Dazzler was chasing fads.
Come on, Dazzler.
Gary, I'm thinking we need to do Jazzercise Dazzler versus Jazzercise Black Canary. I'm just saying.
Okay. We can totally make that happen.
See this?
The battle of the headbands.
This is how Gary and I do this. Like we just start talking. And
I was going to say superheroes with leggings.
Oh,
that would be black.
Everybody got a speak.
Previews.
All right.
Okay, our next competition.
Next battle.
Oh my gosh.
So Gem won that, right? We're
yes,
agreed?
Gem won that.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have 3 votes for Gem and two votes for Dazzler. Okay.
Gem exists, and Sherman points out that Gem existed in the same universe as G.I. Joe and Transformers because they were all had the same character of Hector Ramirez, who was a Geraldo Rivera stand-in.
I knew it.
So-
I knew they were somehow all
That's
connected on the
amazing.
cartoon, and I did not remember how.
That's
Thank you,
Mr.
amazing.
All right, but our next current battle, Mr. Darin, would you like to read off?
This is Captain Janeway versus Susan Ivanova from Babylon 5.5. Babylon
Yes,
DSV.
5 3/4.
5 3/4. Yeah, platform 5 3/4.
Yes.
I am. Should I go first with Gary with the strong opinion?
Yeah, go give us the rundown on both characters and what you think.
So Captain Janeway was Star Trek Voyager's attempt to kind of balance the scales. Female captain. They wanted to go where no man has gone before, and they went to the Delta Quadrant at the speed of plot, if I remember correctly. And of course, I think Ivanova spent most of Babylon 5 as I think she was a commander. I think that was her rank.
Started lieutenant commander and then moved up.
Right. So Commander Ivanova actually spent years standing still on Station Babylon 5. I think that this is a great pairing because these are both very strong, intelligent, leading female characters in science fiction, in television. They both come from acclaimed TV series. I know that Voyager, the acclaim kind of dips a little bit when you get to Voyager, but Janeway's part of a very strong tradition.
And the internet assails Darin Bush. How dare you, sir?
I didn't come here to make friends. So I am a huge fan of Captain Janeway. I love the rolling her sleeves up. I love that she was an engineer before she was a captain, and I love that she solved more problems than Wesley did.
Yes.
Did
not create as many as Wesley did.
Did not create as many as Wesley did. So
I'm looking for coffee.
Now the coffee thing, yes, the coffee was great. I am going to have to put my support behind Captain Janeway here.
All right, Joe.
Joe.
Yeah, Captain Janeway always played by the rules. Ivanova made her own, rejected the rules, did stuff to kill people. Janeway, of course, Janeway did murder Tuvix. So Janeway murdered the one, and Ivanova killed lots of people. So I'm going with Ivanova.
Oh.
Although I'm still mad at Janeway for killing Tuvix, but that's why a vote for Ivanova is a vote for Tuvix.
I'm going to go with Ivanova. To quote here, Ivanova is God. And if this ever happens again, Ivanova will personally rip your lungs out. She is the quintessential military woman. She is strong. She does not feel the need to have a man around, yet she is willing to do whatever is necessary to win. Case in point, when she manages to hoodwink an ambassador who wants to have sex with her into believing he has had sex with her by dancing in front of him, and then says, "Oh, it was good for you. We're done." She's got brains, she's got moxie, and turns out she's also a latent telepath who's managed to hide from the Psi Corps. So, which is, given the fact that her mother was a telepath and a known telepath, the fact that she's managed to hide from the Psi Corps is even more impressive. So my vote goes with Ivanova. As much as I enjoy Janeway, and as much as Voyager has its moments of less than good quality. The de-evolution episode is horrific. I do enjoy Voyager, and I do enjoy Janeway, and I do agree with the recasting because originally Janeway was played by Geneviève Bujold, who is Canadian. Gary knows I have to mention something Canadian at least in every single podcast or live stream we're on.
Sure.
Required CanCon.
Yeah, it's CanCon. It's a legal thing. The government gives me money now.
Canadian money, so it's more.
Yeah. But Janeway, the recasting was perfect. Kate Mulgrew is a very good actress, and as evidenced if you've watched Orange is the New Black, she did the best of what she could with what she was given. But Ivanova admittedly has better scripts to deal with. Claudia Christian has better scripts to deal with. And
when
she
you
got
have J.
out
Michael
before it got bad.
Straczynski writing for you.
Well, in
Now,
Ivanova,
do we have any comments from the poll?
Yes, because actually there's a really good comment from Beck Pano, who said that they would not fight each other. They would recognize one another's kindred spirit and team up to tell the galaxy to act like they have manners or get bleeping spanked, and also source the best coffee that ever existed, because that's something else these two characters had in common, was a love of coffee.
No.
All right. And what are the numbers on the poll?
The numbers, this I think is actually our closest fight here. This is 38 for Ivanova and 35 for Janeway. So Ivanova ekes out a win at 52%. It's the closest of the numbers right now.
That is
and I have to give it to Ivanova just for the moment when she went after the Earth government and they asked her to identify herself, and her speech was, "Who am I? I am Susan Ivanova, commander, daughter of Andrei and Sophia Ivanova. I am the right hand of vengeance and the boot that is going to kick your sorry ass all the way back to Earth, sweetheart. I am death incarnate and the last living thing that you are ever going to see.
Yep,
God sent me."
Amazing.
Like JMS knows how to do a speech.
Yeah, and
Kyle is already demanding a recount.
Too bad. The other thing, the other thing to remember is that Claudia Christian also, because she left Babylon 5 at the end of season 4, she gets the best seasons of Babylon 5. Like season 1 is but she gets 2, 3, 4, which are solid, especially 3, 4, and then she's out before the horrible telepath war. And so she doesn't have as many of those bad episodes in the way in which Catherine Janeway has to suffer through the de-evolution episode, which I'm going to keep coming back to because it's that bad.
It ranks up there as one of the worst episodes of Trek ever, and that's the other reason I'm voting for Ivanova is she never turned into a salamander.
She wasn't in that one. She wasn't in it. So that's
Darin just shaking his head. Although I do have to give Janeway props. She's smart. I love the episodes when she and B'Elanna would science their way out of a problem. I can hear Sue K screaming at me because this is her captain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a Sophie's choice.
And the reality is, had we put Janeway up against many other women in science fiction, or even men actually in science fiction, Janeway would have won.
Oh yeah.
Ivanova is such a strong candidate in this case. So
you got to make it difficult. So here's the thing: had we been doing a full tournament with this thing, we'd still be talking about this one for like 30 minutes, and I'd be like, "Guys, we got 15 more fights we have to get to."
So our winner is Ivanova, which seems to horrify Mark Finn, and thinks he's in the mirror universe right now. Is the only reason that it's come out this way. But we can't be the mirror universe because I'm not wearing a goatee.
Neither am I. So we're,
Yeah, well, you see, in your case, it would be one of that gold lame midriff thing. Which now I kind of want. So let's move on.
For yourself, Gary, I think it would look fetching on you. I think you would look adorable.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy this one.
All right, Darin, do it up. Darin, do it up.
So am I explaining who? Do I have to explain who these two people are to our audience?
Yes.
Sauron was a fallen Maya from Lord of the Rings.
Which is basically an angel, right?
And yes, he was an angel.
I want to get the obscure references.
So Sauron turned to Morlock and said, "I got this." Emperor Palpatine was Darth Sidious, and his daddy was Darth Plagueis. Which, if you haven't read the book Darth Plagueis and you're a Star Wars fan, you're wrong. You need to read that book. It's amazing. So Palpatine, spoilers, is in. I think he's in more Star Wars movies now officially than Luke's X-wing, which is quite an interesting little bit of trivia there. We'll chew on that for a while. So I think that what we're looking at here is the battle between two huge evil conquering empires. They're, for Sauron, 9,000 years of planning, and for Palpatine, it's like 8,500 years of shipbuilding and hiding planets. And that's, I think that's a pretty good wrap up. What did I miss, Gary?
I don't think you missed anything. I think that's a really good, solid explanation. So who's your pick?
My pick?
Yeah.
Oh God, don't know. Come back.
It's a hard pick.
It's painful.
All right.
It's painful.
All right, then Joe, who you got? Do you have Sauron and the One Ring of Power, or Big Papa Palpatine?
Nice. Holla,
Papa Palpatine. Say that to his face, Gary.
I'm Sauron's headgear is way better than just the lazy robe, and it's a robe. Come on, buddy. You had all these many bazillions of years of planning, and you just threw on a robe after Mace Windu blasted your old ugly face. Sauron had a plan. He's like, no, man, I got this bitchin' ass helmet I'm gonna put on. And he did it.
See, now, Joe, you realize that Sauron and Palpatine met at a support group for people that were victims of trauma by heroes. Because Sauron's body was destroyed when Numenor fell into the ocean, and Palpatine got windowed in the face.
Right in the face.
Right in the face.
And thrown down a tube by Darth Vader.
Was like,
yeah, you got tubes.
Okay, people watching this, your job is now to make windowed a thing. Like it needs to be in the Urban Dictionary.
Hashtag windowed.
Get it in there. That's your job. Go. Because that's amazing. He was windowed, man.
You got windowed. You got windowed, bitch. I'm gonna window the. Okay.
I think that's why Gary invited me.
Yes.
So that I could window.
One of many reasons.
Professional. That's what we are, ladies.
Hashtag window.
Guys.
All right, so Deanna, who's actually Joe? You didn't give us your vote.
Oh, Sauron.
So you're giving it to Sauron.
I inferred it was Sauron.
All right. All right, Deanna.
This is hard because I see what Joe is saying, that Emperor Palpatine is the Brian Wilson of science fiction villains. I see that. But you got to give it to Palp because he's the ultimate survivor. Every time you think he's down, he's back up. Every time you think that the Jedi have undercut him, he's actually thought several moves ahead in some of the most Deus Ex Machina stuff in science fiction, to the point that they bring him back at the end, spoilers, of The Rise of Skywalker. Like, we all know that when that preview dropped and that laughter was heard on the preview, every single Star Wars fan went, "What?" Because, as far as we knew, he was windowed again at the end of Jedi and sent down a shaft by Vader.
That actually is right. Darth Vader windowed him in Empire. Oh, not Empire, Return. Oh my God.
Jedi. And yet,
and Lola Strickland points out, he's due some respect.
I mean, so when we talk about, and if I also look at, if I wanted to sort of step back and get meta about this, if we want to talk about cultural impact, Palpatine's had a bigger cultural impact than Sauron. I know Lord of the Rings is huge. Send me your letters.
Oh, I will. I will.
Oh,
but
Darin, I believe Darin wants to rebut in a moment. Finish your thought.
But I'm also going to come back to Sauron because, damn, like Tolkien is the alpha and the omega of fantasy literature. Everything we love comes from him. And
rebellion against him,
or rebellion, but it all goes back to him. And yep, Tolkien filtered myths and all sorts of tropes about the hero's journey into this package of literature that he had essentially started as a nighttime story to put his kids to sleep. But so they're both pretty impressive. Like Sauron is an impressive villain for that reason. Palpatine, though, I could scare a friend by doing a pretty good Palpatine impression when I was 12, like really scare her. Like she'd be like, "Oh, stop." So, I'm gonna go with Palpatine. I have to. Star Wars fans from the age of 6, sorry, it's what I am. It's Palpatine.
Yeah,
but just barely. This took me a long time to get to.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat because I love both of these guys. I've modeled my life after both of them. Emperor Palpatine is the say what you will about prequels, and God knows the internet will say a lot about the prequels.
But Clone Wars.
It's watching Palpatine, watching Darth Sidious play both sides. He's in charge of both sides. No matter who wins, he wins. And he beautifully, like you said, Deanna, he beautifully manipulated the Jedi. He manipulated Coruscant.
He manipulated everything.
It's just, but Sauron is kind of the same thing. He came up with a plan. He bent all his power into the ring. If it had not been for Smeagol and his greed for the ring, he would have won. I mean, it came down to the wire. But looking at them as well, that's an awful lot of metal that Sauron is wearing. You light him up with some force lightning.
Oh, the conductivity.
That stuff's a little conductive.
Force lightning. And Palpatine has been proven, if you've watched the Clone Wars and Rebels, Palpatine's ability with force lightning is like, there's nobody who can come close to him, really, with his ability to manipulate force lightning. It's not just that ability to plan ahead. He's also damn good. He was doing projection, like, choking people out and hurting people and doing that from a distance, like incredible distances, projecting his body far, like an image of his body far away into the clone, like if you were watching Rebels, he does it into the Jedi Temple to try and manipulate Ezra. So there he is, like, of the Sith, he is the most powerful, he is the strongest, he is the one that we certainly see as being incredibly strong.
Sauron's got the coolest figure, though.
So for my vote, and this is, like I said, this is like picking a favorite tooth. In the end, as much as I love Palpatine, Sauron just has that little bit more of a cool factor. And I want to quote what Ryan Schweck said in our Facebook group: Palpatine loses because no one named Sheev is ever really going to win.
I blame that.
And also, speaking of the book you mentioned, Darin, I want to throw a shout out to our friends over on the Needless Things podcast. Their podcast Execute Chapter 66, which is the Star Wars book club, and I believe they're doing that book very soon. So, you were going to say something, Darin?
We do not have time for me to disagree with everything all of you just said. We don't have time. Everything.
I just said Sauron. I think that's agreeing with you.
No, I agree with you on there. I'm going to vote. My vote is Sauron, absolutely. Okay, so first of all, Deanna, everything you described about Palpatine, Sauron did way before Star Wars existed. I'm sorry, I can prove it. We don't have time. The Sherman Burris in the chat said, without Star Wars, the Lord of the Rings movies would still only be animation to this day. Without Tolkien, Lucas would never have felt motivated to create Star Wars in the first place.
And I gave him credit for that.
Tolkien and Lucas were trying to do the exact. Tolkien was trying to bring the Anglo Anglo-Saxon mythology back to the modern world. Lucas was trying to bring any mythology to the Western world, to the United States. Here's what I want to do. I want for you guys, including me, to challenge the high fantasy track to this argument in person at some point in the future, because the high fantasy track guys will love this fight, and so
I will personally reach out to the high fantasy track and the Star Wars track and have them both send a rep.
Guys. Yep.
I want them. They're both going to send it, and they're going to throw down. So
awesome.
Speaking of throwing down, Deanna, what were the poll numbers and any quotes?
This was another close one, and it went back and forth between the two of them over the course of the couple days we've had this up. So at certain points, Palpatine was in the lead. At certain points, Sauron was in the lead. It's finished up with Sauron at 27 votes out of 51, so 53% of the vote, and Palpatine's at 24 out of 51, so at 47. So not as close as Janeway and Ivanova, but still very close on the Rev SF page.
Any interesting comments?
Interestingly enough, I do not believe there were any comments on this one. This is one that was commentless, and I was surprised by that because of the following of the fandoms of both of these, for where both of these guys come from. Like, as we know, neither of those fandoms are shy about expressing their opinions. So I'm actually really surprised there are no comments on the Facebook page.
All right. So we're giving it to the Dark Lord Sauron. He will go back to Mordor and contemplate Hobbit feet. And tell us why there is no gap in Rohan.
So where are we now?
Now we are at Jane Cobb versus Worf.
This was an interesting
battle. Joe, you want to throw down on this one, or should we?
Yeah, I'll do.
So who is who?
Okay, you got your Jane Cobb, who a town wrote a song about. And he's a ne'er-do-well rascal on board the Serenity, and Worf is a Klingon with the honor and things, and he is on board the Enterprise D and the E, and the Deep Space Nine. Also, he's gosh. Worf comes from a warrior race, but he's the most peaceful of those that warrior race.
He's full of prune juice.
Yeah, and Jane's just a dude with a gun, and he doesn't. I guess technically he does come from a warrior race. It's humans from Earth, but there you go. You got your Worf, long-running character on Star Trek The Next Generation. Amidst the second era of Star Trek, you got poor Jane, who, thank you, Fox Entertainment.
He got foxed.
One season, one movie, that's it. So there's like 14 appearances in live action of Jane, and Worf has like 812.
So what you got there?
I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't realize you had more statistics to go with that amazing point. My vote is absolutely going to be affected by the fact that we saw Jane for about 11 hours and we saw Worf for about 17,000 hours.
Exactly.
The difficulty of the dive, I'm going to have to go with Jane on this because he gets to compete with Worf after only about, again, 11 and a half hours of screen time, when Worf's had, gazillions of opportunities to be more impressive than Jane. And there is also one little... Go ahead.
Excellent point.
Thank you. So, and one little quick thing I want to point out before I forget, there's a Star Trek novel in which the whole point of the whole novel is at the end, Worf gets to look at everybody else and goes, so if I just shot the thing at the very beginning, we wouldn't have had all this mess. And that is such a Jane thing to say that I love that these two are together. This is a great comparison.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Deanna, what are the numbers?
The numbers are Jane is leading with 54% of the vote, and Worf is got 46. My own thoughts in this are that Jane, I think, would win this battle, and it comes from couple places. Jane is a criminal. He does not. He follows his own code. And it is the code of what will keep me alive and get me the biggest score. Worf has a very strict honor code, and he probably follows it more than most Klingons because he wasn't raised as a Klingon. He was raised by humans. So in his attempt to, in his otherness, he has embraced his otherness. So he is a bit of a metaphor, and he has embraced it hard, to the point that he follows that honor code in a way in which the Klingons don't follow the same honor code. Also, the other thing that would hurt Worf is that although he's portrayed as the really tough security guy, a shortcut Star Trek Next Generation writers would take all the time to show us how big and scary the new big bad was, is they would beat the crap out of Worf.
Yep.
So I mean, the number of times like somebody beams
Troy
on the
broke
bridge
his
and
arm.
Worf is down is ridiculous. Like if you can think of 2 or 3 episodes right now off the top of your head, or they go into the local planet, town, government, whatever, and Worf is taken out very quickly. So because of that shortcut the writers took, it makes Worf a slightly weaker character than Jane, where the writers in Firefly clearly laid it out that Jane will do what's best for Jane. and the rest is gravy. So my vote goes with Jane. Now on the boards, that same point was made a couple times by people that Jane is a criminal. He's just just going to be taken down. Stephen Matthew Donner points out that for a Klingon, Worf got his butt kicked a lot. And Aaron Mills said, "I'm going to go with Jane. He'd do nothing honorable to win a fight. Worf is a good fighter, but he's so bound by rules, it gets annoying."
Yeah, and I have to go for Jane as well. And I think we've scared Mark Fennell because I haven't heard any comments from him.
He's rage quit.
But yeah, and like I said, as much as I love Deep Space Nine, one of the reasons I love Deep Space Nine is it really did undo the Worf effect. That's what TV Tropes calls it, where the Worfing, where he, to show how bad, the thing you described, Deanna, and they really did a lot to try to undo that. But still, in the end, yeah, Jane is just far too pragmatic and dirty fighter, in my opinion. So I think we've got a winner here in Jane.
It's a unanimous.
The man they call Jane.
One quick defense of Jane that I'm just seeing on our comments at DragonCon, for a quite a while, Adam Baldwin, the auteur, let's say, who portrayed Jane, would be announced as coming and then wouldn't. It became a thing. We were like, well, is he for sure coming this year? So this comment from Ryan Schweck I thought was appropriate.
Yep.
And he said, as Khan has taught us, the chance of Jane actually showing up is low. So anyway.
So Worf might win by default.
Yeah.
All right. So the next round, which is where we named this after, and we kind of have to speed run these. We're running up on our hour. We have Short Round from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom versus Xander Harris from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Short round.
Darin?
Oh, Dr. Jones. I got to go with Short Round. He just was sneakier. He could fit through smaller holes and get away from Xander and sneak up behind him.
Xander couldn't fit through nothing.
There's a dirty joke in there, Joe, but I'm not going to go there.
All I got to see is, knowing the way I've seen Xander on Buffy, I can see him being bullied by an 8-year-old. Especially one who's been taught to fight by Indiana I punch Nazis Jones. Deanna?
As much as I would say that Xander is an adult and Short Round is a child, and ergo Xander would win, also Xander's representation in the comics, if you've read the comics, Xander actually develops quite a lot beyond that kind of geeky, pathetic best friend of Buffy. I do think that he wouldn't hit a child, and even despite the fact he's been fighting demons like literally his entire adolescence and now adult life, he would be like, "Oh, I'm not I'm not going to hurt a child," and so Short Round would get the leg up and take him out pretty fast.
I have this. Sorry.
Dan,
go ahead,
Darin. Sorry. No, do it, Darin. Go ahead.
Well, I have this image in my head of the two of them, instead of fighting, having this conversation, and which Short Round goes, and then he pulled the guy's heart out of his chest, and Xander goes, "I can beat that."
That they might become friends. Like they might like trade comic books and girly magazines that they've picked up quietly in the woods somewhere, and and become friends that way. But if it was actually to a fight, I think Xander's inability to hit a child is gonna. I
feel
like
Xander's gonna try to and okay, yes, Xander can fight stuff, and we've seen a lot more of Xander than we have of Short Round, and but Xander was in a lot of fights, but he also lost a lot of fights. And pound for pound, if we're just talking match results, then I feel like Short Round is the winner just on match results alone. But personally, in my gut, I don't think Xander could win anything ever, because he'd get to that moment and then have the doubt, and then Short Round would punch him in the punch him in the nose, and that'd be the end of it. So yeah, I think Xander wouldn't be able to seal the deal, and Short Round would throw him off a cliff or throw him into the mining cart and push him down the track, the rickety track. I don't. I'm a Short Round guy. Short Round.
What are the numbers, Deanna?
The numbers pretty much agree with what we've been talking about. Short Round is ahead with 19 out of 30 votes, so that's a 63.33%. Beck Pano has one question though on the page. One question: does Short Round know the proper use of shims? That's what I think.
And I like some other quotes. Lola Strickland says Xander would question himself to death.
Thank you.
Sherman Burris says that Short Round would kick Xander in the nards.
Thank you again.
And Ryan Schweck points out that while Xander is distracted about his relationships, Short Round recognizes when there's no time for love.
No time for love.
Who knows? Short Round gets it. Short Round knows when there's no time for love.
So Short Round wins this short round. Oops,
nice.
And we got to go around the horn again.
Oh.
All right. So
spoilers.
All right. Tony Montana. Tony Montana from Scarface versus Trevor Phillips from GTA 5. I will go ahead. Tony Montana is the famous Cuban drug lord of Miami who the world is yours and gets taken out by a Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a Terminator lookalike at the end of the movie. Trevor Phillips is pure id and what most people who play crime simulator games like Grand Theft Auto 5 run around, shoot people, do drugs, be crazy. So they're very similar.
Also known in my hometown as the high school graduation exam. Thank you.
Yes.
Self-burn.
All right. So, Darin, you have any thoughts on these two?
I love Pacino. I think that Tony Montana wins the memes contest. Absolutely. I mean, how many people know who his little friend actually is? They know the meme, but they don't know what he's actually referring to. So I got to go with Tony on this one.
Joe?
I also want to go with Tony because of the amount of cocaine that he can ingest and then remain functional and a killing machine at that point. Not that I have I would say a ton of experience with ingesting cocaine. Pound for pound of cocaine. I guess gram for gram. I'm gonna go with Tony Montana.
Deanna, what's your vote and what are the numbers?
My vote goes with Tony Montana just because of the two of them. Before we discuss this, he's the only one I would have heard of this pairing, not having played the video game. And Tony Montana also ties back into one of the more recent pop culture fads of the Tiger King, because one of the characters in there is supposedly the inspiration for the Tony Montana character. But the numbers, this was the least voted on pairing of the group. Only 11 people voted in our poll on the Dragon Con page, but Tony Montana wins it hands down, 9 out of 11 at an 81.8% win.
Yeah, I love Trevor Phillips, but Tony does coke, Trevor does meth. Coke is the classier drug.
It really is.
I have to give it to Tony.
And if there wasn't there at some point? There wasn't. If there were a Scarface game where you could do the things that you do in GTA 5, we'd all be playing that.
That's true. All right, next short round, because we are running out of time. The Borg versus aliens, the Xenomorph.
Gary,
we know who both of them are. Yeah, I got to give it to the aliens just for the simple fact that the aliens are creepier and their acid blood would eat the implants. Darin?
Everyone says when you posted this poll, everyone says clearly, obviously the Borg. And come on, guys, aliens, the blood.
The Borg would ignore the Xenomorphs. No technology to assimilate.
You're very good point.
And the Xenomorphs would just run all over them because they wouldn't care until it was too late.
Yeah, they just keep implanting eggs. Borg could be walking around and.
The other problem is the Borg take their dead back with them. So if somebody gets killed by one of these Xenomorphs and the Xenomorphs implanted an egg, the Borg would take them back.
Genius.
Before the Borg even had a chance to realize that something was going on, that ship would be done. Now,
the cube is overrun. The cube's been ate up with Xenomorphs.
The thing that the only defense that the Borg has, well, it's twofold. They have a hive mind. So they would very quickly realize that they had lost a cube and would send other cubes to investigate. And if they were able to figure out what was going on, they would show no mercy in getting rid of the infected cubes. So they would get rid of them quickly. But I don't think that they could react fast enough to get rid of the Xenomorphs. I think the Xenomorphs have them hands down.
So, Deanna, you're saying they would nuke them from orbit?
Yep.
Yep.
Pretty much.
It is the only way to be sure.
Yeah.
The only way to be sure.
All right. So what were the numbers, Deanna?
The numbers on the page were very much in favor of the Borg. So it's of the 44 votes, 30 of them were for the Borg, which is 68.2. But I did want to read this one comment from Sue Kissenweather, friend of the podcast.
Yes.
She said that Xenomorphs are very similar to species 8472, which the Borg could not defend against. The hive mind can be too slow for an enemy that hides and strikes from the shadows, especially since the Borg drones don't attack something that the collective doesn't perceive as a threat. So, she also says that if the Borg tried to assimilate the Xenomorphs, their acidic blood would just destroy the nanoprobes. So there's a really good bit of knowledge there about pulling out species 8472 from Star Trek lore.
If there's anybody who knows Star Trek lore, it is Sue.
Yeah.
American Sci-Fi Classics Track with the deep information, you guys. You're not going to come away from one of these panels not knowing something new every time.
So the people voted for the Borg, but the people are wrong. Moving on. Ardeth Bay, Warrior for God, versus Inigo Montoya, You Killed His Father.
Prepare to die.
Darin.
Well, Ardith Bay is the sexy male lead role from The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser Mummy, not the Tom Cruise Mummy. Makes me proud to be a
He's
Jew.
still the sexy mummy, though.
And yes, and Inigo Montoya, dude, if you've got 6 fingers, just run, because he's after you.
Yeah. How many fingers does Ardith Bay have? This is a question.
Trying to get the camera.
You see,
So, yes,
Benny would tell Inigo, "There's the 6-fingered man over there. Go."
Penny.
I have to go Inigo Montoya on this one. I have such a huge place in my heart for his story and his character and Mandy Patinkin and just the whole movie. So I don't care why you would want Ardith Bay. I got to give it to Inigo. And that's it. Just done.
All right. Deanna?
My son actually came up with this pairing as we were planning this. This was his idea. And I love Ardith Bay. Warrior for God is my nickname for him. But he is willing to sacrifice himself for the greater cause, whereas Inigo was, even though he was helping Wesley get to Buttercup, he was still focused on his own task, and the only reason why he was helping Wesley was to get to the 6-fingered man. So I think when it comes to being driven and focused on your task and not sacrificing yourself for the greater good, I think that's Inigo. And when I say sacrificing himself for the greater good, remember at one point, even though he survives, Ardith Bay says, "Go, I'll hold them back," and lets Rick and Evie and Jonathan kind of go off.
Yeah. Well, Ardith Bay was the leader of the Majad or something, whatever. I forget. But people who lived in the desert to make sure nobody got to the mummy, and they failed. Yeah. Inigo was after the 6-fingered man and won. So
well, eventually the mummy was dealt with, but not before he was released.
Not by Ardith Bay.
Not by Ardith Bay. And please understand, the Mummy and the Princess Bride are like 2 of my favorite movies ever. Like, they're amazing movies. But I just think Inigo's gonna beat Ardith on this one.
But also, if you go by facial markings, Inigo Montoya's got the coolest sword scars on his face ever. Bay's just got tattoos. It's just
now, to be fair to Bay, he's got a gun. So
that's true.
It could be a very quick fight if we went with the distance weapon theory that we had earlier.
It could be the Indy versus the swordsman thing all over again.
Yeah.
Joe, what are your thoughts?
Did Ardith Bay kill Inigo Montoya's father?
That's the question.
He did not. So is Inigo Montoya really going to be invested in this fight? He didn't care.
If Ardith Bay is in the way of the 6-fingered man, Inigo getting to the 6-fingered man, yes.
I see there, and clearly Ardith Bay tries to. I feel like maybe the 6-figure man convinces Ardith Bay, like, look, this crazy dude with a sword is coming after me. And Ardith Bay says, okay, I'll, and then so okay then. Well, in that case, I got to go with Mr. Montoya.
Yeah, my as much as I love Ardith Bay as well, I would have loved to have seen movie spin-offs of him fighting evil monsters, Warrior for God. And I got to give it to Inigo. Inigo is just, he had one singular focus more, I think. And even though Bay did have focus, I got to give it to Inigo, especially because he had, one of the greatest sword fights in movie history.
Ryan Schweck says they both win the luxurious hair battle. Thank you, sir.
What are the numbers, Deanna? And then we'll jump to, I think, our final battle.
Last one. Yeah, the numbers are pretty clear in Inigo's court. Out of the 33 votes, he got 27 of them. Ardith only got 6, so Inigo ended up with 81.8%. So that's one of our bigger gaps.
Big wins there.
Yeah, one of our bigger
gaps.
We
may have to have a losers bracket with Ardith Bay against the
Xander.
All right.
It's gonna be bad.
All right, our final battle: Captain Jack Harkness versus Lando Calrissian.
And the internet cracks in half.
So I'm going to put a twist on
the internet
this.
wax.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote for Lando, because even though Captain Jack is immortal, Lando would just cover him in his capes and he'd be trapped forever.
He would never find his way out of that closet.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
No, Captain Jack came out of that closet
Jack
years
has never
ago.
been in a closet. Let's be absolutely clear on that.
millennia ago, he was out of that closet.
He's
Joe?
from the 33rd century. They don't think that way, according to Doctor Who.
Well,
I think Joe is broken, so Deanna, throw down.
Okay, so
We
here's
broke
what I'm
Joe,
going to
Deanna,
say.
go.
I'm going to say that the winner is us, because this is what's going to happen. The two of them are going to start flirting, and it is going to be the slash fiction writer's dream come true. But neither of these two men is shy about expressing their like of somebody that they are attracted to. And I think Captain Jack would start flirting with Lando, and Lando would just flirt back. And either that or there'd be an epic card game.
Let me throw this out there. We have many, many very successful and excellent fanfic writers and creators out there on the Classic Track followers and Revolution SF followers. Somebody write this.
Oh, yeah.
And when you do, we will do a dramatic presentation of it. And it will be glorious.
After 10 p.m.
After 10 p.m.
Yes.
After 10 p.m.
Yeah. Now you're saying dramatic presentation. Are you going to recreate all the scenes, or are you just going to read it? Like, be honest.
We're in quarantine. I can't recreate all the scenes.
And I have to agree with Deanna. This is going to, no matter
vision of Darin's face right when I said it. Great.
Yeah. There's no way this does not end with sex.
Yeah, no. It's gonna be great.
There's no way this does not end with sex. It's gonna. If I have to vote, I'm gonna vote for Lando just for the simple fact that capes beat long coats. Long coats are what you wear when you're trying to look like you're wearing a cape without actually wearing a cape, whereas Lando goes right, cuts out the middleman, and wears the cape. And I want to point out what Ryan Schweck had to say. He said, first, please, whatever Lando does, it works every time.
Every time.
Welcome to the cool side of the pillow. And Ryan also said he's assuming that Barrowman has already written this fan fiction.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So what are the numbers?
Well, I want to read some interesting comments from the Facebook page.
Go for it.
Because this was our most popular of the polls, with 99 people who have voted in it. So it's actually got a lot of response.
Awesome.
So Stephen Matthew Donners said, I would have to say Jack, being immortal, he could withstand a little blaster fire, and that's true. You know, Jack is immortal. Thanks to, or not quite immortal, but he does live much longer, and is thanks to Rose, is proven to be pretty much impervious. Joe Crowe, some guy, commented on the Facebook page that Lando is not a system; he is a man. He is a man. But I think the winner of the comments is once again Beck Pano. If we get to watch, we all win. Gary, we all win. And then she said, bonus, Captain Jack being a time traveler and all, he could go back and have a run at young Lando. Oh, yeah.
That's true.
So my vote is both, but is like us. But Jack has won. Jack squeaked out a victory at 53.5% with 53 out of 99 votes, and Lando had 46. It was a very respectable showing by Lando. But my vote is we all win. That's my vote.
Darin?
I was going to vote Lando because he is definitely a scoundrel. And he could definitely trick Jack, even though Jack's immortal, he could trick him. But I think I'm going to fall in line with the write-in vote of both.
Both.
Of we all win if they win. I'm going to vote for both with Deanna.
Kyle is not happy that Lando did not come out on top, but trust me, I'm pretty sure over the course of things, Lando's coming out on top.
Well, have you seen Lola Strickland's comment where she calls it Harknissian?
Harknissian.
She's got a portmanteau for them already. It's great. We got
points for Harknissian.
We got Winddude out of this and Harknissian. I think
Winddude, hashtag Harknissian. I love it.
All right.
So
that is everything. We made it through all 10. I thought we weren't going to in a minute.
Sci Fighters is one of the most fun things. We do so many fun things, guys. Gary, Darin, Deanna, we do so many fun things on the American Sci-Fi Classics Track and
At DragonCon.
At DragonCon and Revolution SF, but Sci Fighters is one of the most fun things.
And
because we throw it out there and just let stuff happen. Go ahead.
Gary and I have been talking, and because Gary and I pretty much run the RevSF Facebook page. So we've had so much fun doing this because we used to do this years ago. Like this was actually something we did back on the web
page. A regular feature, yeah.
So we're going to bring it back to the RevSF Facebook page. We have many more pairings that were discussed. Over
yes, I've been on the messenger thread. Yes.
So if you enjoyed tonight and you want to keep voting, we will be putting polls up on the RevSF Facebook page, and you're welcome to come vote. And who knows, maybe Joe will have us back and we can discuss more of those pairings.
We're totally going to do this again, and I'm going to go retrieve from our old Revolution SF site, which is kind of, it finally went kablooey, but I'm going to go retrieve stuff from the archives and post them on our new site, revolutionsf.com/blogs, where you can find the weekly blog from Mr. Gary Mitchell, who, tell people what you do, Mr. Gary.
Every week, I have to do this week. So this has been a bad week, but every week up until now, I do Slipped Discs, where I let you know what geeky and nerdy things are coming out on physical media every Tuesday. So because I still believe in physical media.
So do I. Even though I have a whole bunch of streaming services, physical media is awesome.
Yeah, I can watch it whenever I like. I don't have to worry about Amazon taking it away from me.
Yep.
Which they've done. Or when things drop off of Netflix.
Or D+.
Ridiculous.
And you can find links to that on my Twitter, which is right there. And that's where you can find me online. And you can also find me on the DragonCon Facebook group, the Classic Track Facebook group. And this gentleman, where can we find you, Darin?
Okay, so I am, speaking of the evil empire of Amazon, I have an author's page on Amazon. I have some stories on the Kindle. So if you look for this name on Amazon, you'll find my author's page, and I've been published in some stuff there.
Cool.
Yep. And you've won awards, right?
I did win an award, yes.
Yeah. And they can also find you at most any convention in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
So we're going to be now, of course, I'm not sure about this year, but I'm hoping to be at DragonCon in person. I'm hoping that's going to happen. But then Monsterama in October, Conjuration in November, and I'm looking forward to all the different crazy convention stuff in 2021.
Yes. And you,
me,
above me as normal.
If you want to spend more time with me, RevSF Facebook page, pretty much me. Gary posts occasionally, but most of those memes are me finding those memes, sometimes even making those memes. That's mostly my geeky contribution. I do have a professional Twitter, but I talk about teaching and about tech and teaching. So, and the situation of teaching in Ontario right now. So if you're into that, you can follow me on the Twitter.
Somebody out there is like, finally.
And I want to give a shout out to your lovely husband and child.
Yes. Who are watching this. I'm not, at least my child is. My husband probably isn't. He's probably watching Walking Dead or something, but
something.
What? Why?
And Joe?
I am the co-director of your American Sci-Fi Classics Track, and you can find me on the Twitters and the Instagrams at YoJoCrowe, and you can find the Classic Track on the Instagram. All these links, guys, you could use my words, or you could just look at them printed on things once we post this. All these things you can find on the Instagrams and the Googles. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for giving us an hour and right now 18 minutes of your time out of your day to just hang out with us. This is what we love. This is what we. Oh, okay. Hang on. This is what we love. We love everything about this except for Deanna's hot tea. Hot candy.
Also, and
there's 4 of us here. I know.
And if you did also enjoy this, Darin does this at Monsterama, and he does it at Conjuration. He does Sci Fighters as well. Although I think you call it something else, or
we call it late night nerd fight.
Yes. And
like that.
Had I heard that before,
yeah, exactly. That's good.
Before we called it Sci Fighters, before Gary came up with Sci Fighters, we would have stolen that from you. There it is.
Which is ironic because I was trying to come up with something original to respect your IP, Joe.
And thank you. But so yeah, find us all. Thank you guys all for coming. But I think the most important thing that we can debate upon, the most important battle is going to be hot tea versus sweet tea. Gary and I know where we stand. We know where. I'm going to just remove Deanna from the because of her vote. So, Darin, where do you stand? Sweet tea or hot tea?
Deanna's going to love this because I am a sweet tea aficionado, especially if it's Canadian red rose. I literally have red rose tea smuggled in from Canada about once a year.
An excellent orange pico blend.
Darin, is that your friend Ralph?
Now, too late. We don't have time, Gary.
But you can say hello at least. Hi, Ralph.
Hey.
Next time.
All right.
Next time we'll just have. Okay. Well,
Ralph
guys,
should
thank
do
you.
the panel next time.
Yes, 100%.
Like not us, but Ralph. Just Ralph.
No. Bad idea.
Guys, thank you very, very much for bringing us into your phones and your computers for an hour and 20 minutes this week. And whenever, join us on the Facebook page. We love doing this. We love seeing you people physically and on the computers and emotionally. We love seeing you emotionally. We're going to do this again. This is the most fun thing. We will see you very, very soon. Thank you guys very much. Dang it, I pointed to myself. Why am I doing that? I'm going to point back to Deanna and make a mean face about the hot tea. There we go.
Most of the world agrees with me, guys.